All right. This is a unexpected live that we're doing here. We should be at the Burbank Card Show, guys. We are actually late. It is the show started at 9. It is almost 10 o'clock, so we are late for the Burbank Card Show. But I went into this deep dive of this news story that I discovered last night.
Right.
You still don't really know what's going on.
So, sort of, yeah. You were reading the Instagram while I was getting in the massage chair, and you gave me the whole lowdown about it.
So let me explain this to you guys in case you haven't been following this story. I just found out about this last night, so I'm still catching up, but it is shocking news to me. Basically, I guess there was a scandal where a Michael Jordan game used jersey got photo matched to a certain game, which dramatically increased the value of that. And it turns out that the photos that were used to match that game used jersey to whatever game that was were fabricated. They were not real. And now you have a photo or game used photo authenticator service. I think they're called McGray services or something like that. They are in the middle of this. You have this owner of this jersey who fabricated these photos, under the spotlight, and that turns out, they're saying that owner is actually the person that runs a Cardporn account. So huge scandal, basically what's going on here. This whole thing is being reported by Darren Rovell. He's like a sports journalist, and he's an avid member of the hobby. So he knows all about this kind of stuff, and he's breaking this news. And this is crazy. Let me tell you how this kind of came about.
Okay.
All right. So this jersey sells at auction for like $27,000, something like that, around that. Don't quote me on this.
Okay.
The facts are still kind of fuzzy here.
So like a reasonable price.
Yes. Sells at auction. Then that jersey resurfaces, and now it has a photo matched, photos that match it to like a playoff game or something like that.
Which it allegedly didn't have before.
Yes, correct. Okay. And now that it's photo matched to a certain game, now that jersey was valued at or praised at like over $1 million.
That big of a difference because of the game matched photos.
Yes. And the way that it was game matched is there's an authentication company that specializes in game used memorabilia, and they know how to supposedly they
do
know
the research and find
they know how to do the research. They know how to photo match these game used items to the photos. Well, it turns out that the photos were apparently obtained from a foundation from the photographer, the original photographer of these photos, right? And upon further digging, I don't know how Darren Rovell did it. I think there's a different side to how he found this out, but basically it was discovered that the foundation where these photos were allegedly obtained was made up. It's not a real foundation, because the family of the photographer, who's now deceased, came out and said, we are not part of this foundation. This is not us. So somebody else created a foundation under this photographer's name to lend credibility to those photos. And those photos were given to the authenticator, and the authenticator doesn't know whether they're real or not. They just know that they came from this photographer. So then they matched it up and said, okay, this jersey goes to this game. Okay. And it turns out, being reported by Darren Rovell, that the person that's behind this foundation is the person that runs the Cardporn account, who has remained anonymous for so many years, right?
So you don't know who he is? I have no clue who he is.
Well,
no one really knows who he is.
Darren Rovell has posted his name now. Okay, and I don't want to say his name,
right?
But he has posted it on his Twitter account. You can follow the entire story on the Twitter account. So
what's his Twitter account? Is the same name?
Darren Rovell.
Okay,
Darren Rovell. So you can follow the entire story. He's writing all these articles on that because this is a huge thing, right?
Yeah, this is like a Watergate scandal here.
So now Cardporn is allegedly the person that when you connect all the dots, Cardporn is looking like the person that owns this jersey, the person that created the foundation, and the person that submitted these fabricated photos to the authenticator. So the whole thing is like pointing back at them. And then this morning, Cardporn posts a huge post basically going on a rant to defend themselves, and then they immediately deleted
it. It was a just a thing with a bunch of lettering, whatever, and he was writing, and it was like all these like 1, 2, 3, 4, all these bullet points where he was like bitching whoever reported them.
Yes. So now Cardporn is fighting back, but now since then they've deleted the account.
Yeah, because when I opened up my Instagram this morning, you and I were having coffee, and I looked and I saw this rant, and then he had music to NSYNC's "Bye Bye Bye," and I showed you, and you showed me your phone, and there was nothing on there.
Yeah,
it had been removed, and then I tried to do a screenshot, and it disappeared on me.
Yeah, so that's basically the whole story, guys. Okay, right there. Jersey, that was allegedly photo matched. Turns out that the photo match was fabricated. Turns out the person who did that looks like to be the person that's behind the Cardporn account. So that's basically the summary of it. I'm sure there's some details in there that we missed, but that's
also, did you overhear that they also tried to turn these photos in as well?
So that's another aspect of this story. Is at the National, Darren Rovell was reporting that they tried to take these photos to PSA to get them authenticated as like type 1 photos or something like that, right? And then PSA declined to authenticate them at the National, but they still submitted it to the authenticator, which poses a huge question in terms of like operating process on how they authenticate these things, right? But that's another part of the story here. There's another part of the story where Darren Rovell was initially digging into this story, and then he received like an angry letter from the representatives of the foundation that created these photos, and basically telling him to stop or they're going to get their lawyers involved. And because they sent Darren Rovell that letter, it's like a cease and desist letter, essentially. He started digging more, and that's how he found out that the foundation was made up. It was not real.
So let me get this right. Was the foundation the same company that also did the verification?
No, it's different.
They're different.
Yeah.
So what was this verification company? Do you know where they stand right now?
They're in the middle of this. They have no comment.
Gotcha.
They have no comment. They're in the middle of this. This is like BBC, Baseball Card Exchange, Pokemon scandal over again.
Oh my gosh.
They have no comment. So that's basically the synopsis of this. Just real quick initial thoughts, and then we really got to go, guys, because we're so late for this show, and it's Saturday too.
Boy, we have 24 people already.
Yes,
wow.
But basically, here's my initial thoughts. Okay, number one, instant backlash reaction. Everybody is going and attacking Cardporn. Okay, this is the moment so many people have been waiting for to go at Cardporn. So that's instant reaction, which I think it's warranted. Okay, based on all the evidence here, this is not somebody just like making something up and just accusing Cardporn or something. This is Darren Rovell, an established journalist, very credible, who has pieced together this story to where it's starting to line up. So, everybody that's attacking Cardporn, immediate backlash, and you can see how Cardporn reacts to it, where they basically they took shots back at people, plus they deleted all their accounts. It's a bad look. Okay, so that's number one. Okay, number two, I think this really has, however this shakes out, this has to really put a spotlight on how we credit authenticators in this space. Okay, this is on game used memorabilia, game used items, but just everything in our hobby, how we really put emphasis on things being authenticated,
right?
And how we just automatically trust a company that pops up and says, I'm an expert in this subject matter. I give you this certificate. Believe me at all cost, right? Believe me no matter what. No questions asked.
Gotcha.
I think that we do have a problem with that. I have the story. I haven't talked about it, but I have had issues with autographed memorabilia and how one company will authenticate it and one company will not, and things like that. So I've had my own issues with this. And it just makes me question how do you establish yourself as an authenticator in the hobby space, right? Like these stories are usually all the same. They're like,
I have one of the issues, like the same thing you had, where I had a bunch of autographed baseballs, and they're all certified by GSA.
Yeah.
And then I sent them all in the PSA, and only The only one that didn't get authenticated was my Babe Ruth. And you had something similar too.
It's like these companies they all have the same story.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I worked at PSA or BGS Beckett for 10 years. Here's my master authenticator, right? Here's our process, how we look at everything. Here's, the certificates that we stamp it. We put a unique hologram on it with a number that you can trace online. You can see the process, right? Blah, blah, blah. So they just seem to like pop up, and then they claim to be experts in these fields. And because they give you a letter of authenticity, that adds a tremendous value to whatever item it is.
Correct.
And I think sometimes we blindly fall for that. We give too much. We're too trusting as people in the hobby, where we're consumers of these things, and we're paying a lot of money for autographs or game used memorabilia or whatever it is. We pay a lot of money. We're just blindly trusting these people. And sometimes I think that we really need to question that.
Right, but we don't want to buy something we'll use a lot of money and it'd be fake, totally fake, because we need that like reassurance, we need that validation, we need that.
Well, I think the problem is these auction houses, right? When they present something and they tell the story of it, and they say, okay, this game used item, it's worth whatever it's worth because it's game used. We are trusting that auction house that they're telling us the truth, and the auction house's position. And I've dealt with them on this. Okay, this is something that we may have to talk about sometime in the future.
Right.
The auction house's position is that, well, we're basing our claims off of this letter of authenticity that is tied to this authenticator.
Correct.
That is reputable, right? So it's just like they're all like saying, okay, this guy says it's good, so it's good, and then this guy says it's good, and then when we just trace it all the way back to the top, to the original source, right? It's just some dude that created a company. Who knows what his credentials are? Who knows what his expertise is? But he just, he created it. So I think that this is something, when this all shakes out, we definitely have to have that conversation about who are we trusting in the hobby? Who is the ultimate source of, credible source within the hobby to tell us what is real, what is not? Should we be putting so much emphasis on them, right? And if we can't put so much trust in them, then I think should we be valuing these items so much, right? How does a Jordan game used jersey go from $27,000 sold at auction to valued at over 100 or valued at over $1 million just because it's
they can ID it to a particular game?
Yes, just because it's photo matched. Like, why does it increase in value just because of that? Because somebody's able to photo match it, right? I think that it would make more sense for if you do photo match it, yes, that adds a premium, but not $1 million premium. You know what I mean? Like maybe it adds 20%, 30%, whatever, something more reasonable. But I think these things we're gonna have to talk about in the future because it's a little bit out of control, especially the game used stuff. The game used memorabilia right now is totally out of control. That's one thing. The other thing I think we have to talk about is how we view these hobby watchdogs, okay? Because Cardporn was regarded as the number one source in the hobby as being a credible watchdog. And yes, they did point out a lot of scandals and a lot of bad actors in the hobby, but they had a lot of questionable behavior too over the years. They used their influence to essentially cancel a lot of people. They bullied people. I remember they made a post of these guys that were making comments in some sections, and they're saying, if you don't clean up your act, we're going to expose you. And they were right to an extent with that post, but at the same time, they were doing the same thing. They were bullying these people.
And those guys left the hobby?
I don't know. I don't know what happened with that, but I think we have to really, really, understand that if this can happen to Cardporn, which is the biggest account in the hobby, the biggest watchdog in the hobby. I think
how many followers?
Over 100,000, 120,000 followers.
Ooh, gosh, that's a lot.
Last time I checked, right?
Wow.
We have to understand that, everybody that does these things, they have certain motivations. So people that claim to be hobby watchdogs, they also have certain motivations, and we shouldn't be too quick to put these accounts on pedestals where everything that they say is the matter of fact or the final word in the hobby. So.
Well, this is crazy that someone who's like one of the biggest watchdogs in the hobby ends up being the one getting watchdogged.
It's a crazy,
you know what I mean? Like,
it's a crazy
they're the ones
scandal.
who causing the scandal.
It's like, it's the equivalent to
but the irony.
It's the equivalent to like a president of the United States going into some type of crazy scandal, like a fraudulent.
Well, imagine that.
You know, it's like, I mean, who do you trust now, right? Like if Cardporn, you know, gets exposed as some profiteer doing these things behind the scenes, like who do you trust? You know, so I don't know. It's a crazy thing. I still need time to process all this. I think we still need more information on it. But this is definitely something that we're going to be talking about next week on Between Two Slabs for sure. Unfortunately, I think this puts kind of like a cloud over the Burbank card show a little bit, just because this is going to be the talk of the show, everybody right now. But it's a pretty crazy scandal. So that's my initial thoughts. Anything you want to add?
No, I'm sure we'll hear a lot more news that we'll be able to update the viewers later on.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the initial reaction, guys. Put your comments in there. Let us know if there's any information that we're missing or whatever. Just put it in there. We will talk about this. This will be a topic of discussion for sure in the next few days. Other than that, we're going into card show mode. We're going to Burbank Card Show. If you guys are going there this weekend, come say hi to us, and then we can talk about it in person. But we got to go, guys. So appreciate you stopping by. Appreciate you watching. And then we'll see you guys Tuesday on Between Two Slabs.
See you guys.